On August 5th, 2025, a seemingly routine mission took a dramatic turn in the sweltering waters off Somalia. A U.S. supply ship, disguised as a civilian cargo vessel, was silently transporting vital supplies to a nearby aircraft carrier. This wasn't just any cargo, it was critical fuel and classified explosive compounds required for the U.S. Navy's F-35 jets and long-range cruise missiles. Without these supplies, the American aircraft carrier group stationed in the Arabian Sea would be rendered incapable of launching airstrikes or defending itself. The fate of U.S. forces in the region depended on this unassuming vessel. At 6:12 a.m., disaster struck. The supply ship, still a few hundred kilometers from its destination, was ambushed by 31 speedboats that came roaring over the horizon. The pirates, over 240 of them, were armed with an arsenal of rocket launchers, heavy machine guns, and bayonets. These were no ordinary criminals. They were battle-hardened pirates, seasoned by years of violent piracy and warfare. The attack was swift, coordinated, and ruthless. As the pirates closed in, they formed attack teams. One group used rocket-propelled grenades, RPGs, to suppress the crew's fire, forcing the U.S. sailors to take cover behind steel containers. Another group launched a close-quarters assault, throwing hooks to board the ship from its vulnerable sides. Gunfire rang out across the ocean, cutting through the otherwise calm morning. The ship's crew, though armed, was outgunned by the sheer number and firepower of the attackers. The American sailors fought back fiercely, but the pirates' overwhelming numbers and tactical prowess soon took control of the vessel. In less than 4 minutes, the pirates had disabled the ship's control, killing 5 Americans and wounding 3 others. The remaining crew members were bound with tow ropes and forced to lie flat on the deck at gunpoint. It seemed like an insurmountable defeat. But in the midst of chaos, a single action altered the course of the battle. The ship's captain, a former Navy lieutenant, managed to activate a silent distress signal just before his capture. This distress signal was sent directly to the nearest U.S. carrier group, which was patrolling less than 200 kilometers away. The pirates, unaware of the gravity of their actions, believed they had just captured another ship for ransom. They had no idea they had seized one of the most critical assets in the U.S. Navy's operational network. What they didn't know was that the U.S. Navy was already mobilizing. The pirates had no idea that hundreds of American fighter jets, drones, and helicopters were on their way, poised to take back the ship and retaliate for the attack. Inside the Pentagon, the alarm was sounded. Intelligence officers were quick to recognize the national security breach. If the pirates offloaded the materials from the ship, they could potentially funnel these critical supplies to hostile nations or terrorist groups, disrupting U.S. military capabilities. The stakes were higher than the pirates could possibly imagine, and the clock was ticking. The pirates were now only 10 nautical miles from their coastal base, a known black market hub that had evaded international efforts to dismantle it for years. This was not just a hijacking, it was a direct threat to U.S. national security. Rear Admiral Peter Sloan, commanding the U.S. Navy's carrier strike group, knew the response had to be immediate, overwhelming, and decisive. He gave the order. Operation Thundernet was a go. Within moments, the U.S. Navy sprang into action at 6:15 a.m., just 3 minutes after the pirates took control of the supply ship. The USS Liberty, the lead carrier of the strike group, received the emergency alert. The situation had escalated to a Priority 1 national security breach. Rear Admiral Peter Sloan immediately activated Operation Thundernet, a swift and surgical response designed to reclaim the ship and make a powerful statement to any who would threaten America's global presence. With no time for diplomatic solutions or delays, the mission was clear: retrieve the ship, neutralize the pirates, and eliminate any threat to U.S. military assets. The U.S. Navy's response was immediate, overwhelming, and uncompromising. Within 30 seconds of receiving the distress signal, the first wave of operations was set in motion. The flight deck of the USS Liberty came alive with activity as 10 MH-60 Seahawk helicopters, fully loaded with 30 elite Navy SEALs and Marine Raiders each, were rolled out onto the flight deck. These 300 specially selected soldiers were experts in shipboarding and hostage rescue operations, ready to storm the vessel with lethal precision. Simultaneously, 5 FA-18 Super Hornets, each carrying precision-guided bombs and GAU-7A miniguns capable of unleashing thousands of rounds per minute, were prepped for launch. The Super Hornets would serve as the airstrike force, suppressing enemy fire from above and providing cover for the SEALs and Marines as they moved in to retake the ship.
In the hangar below the flight deck, 20 MQ-25 Stingray drones, cutting-edge AI-powered reconnaissance and strike assets were launched. These drones were equipped with dual microbomb bays, advanced thermal tracking, and encrypted real-time data feeds, all linked directly to the operations tactical hub. The drones would scan the area for targets, provide reconnaissance, and deliver devastating precision strikes against any pirate escort boats. Within 9 minutes of the distress signal being received, the skies over the Indian Ocean came alive with the roar of American military might. The first wave consisted of the MQ-25 Stingray drones flying ahead to locate the hijacked supply ship and scan for any pirate escort boats or other threats. These drones would provide the intelligence needed for the next phase of the operation. The second wave involved the FA-18 Super Hornets, which circled wide to prepare for their role in suppressing enemy fire from the air. These aircraft were armed and ready to strike any pirate positions on the ship or on the surrounding water. The third wave was the most critical. The MH-60 Seahawk helicopters descended low across the ocean's surface, hugging the radar shadow zone to remain undetected. The helicopters were moving in close, preparing to board the vessel and take control. As the operation unfolded, each wave was tracked in real time by satellite, ensuring complete airspace dominance. The mission had become a perfectly coordinated effort, each component of the U.S. Navy working in perfect harmony to reclaim the ship and eliminate any threats.
Back on the carrier, Admiral Sloan monitored the digital map tracking the movement of the hijacked supply ship. The ship was now only 8.2 nautical miles from a known pirate compound, a heavily fortified base along the Somali coastline. If the pirates reached the base, the situation would quickly escalate into urban combat, a far more dangerous scenario for the hostages. There was no room for error. Failure was not an option. The time to act was now. At 7:01 a.m., the hijacked ship came into visual range of the Somali coastline. The skies above the vessel suddenly shifted as the MQ-25 Stingray drones came into attack formation. These drones, flying low and fast, skimmed just above the ocean surface before breaking formation and locking onto their targets. The lead drone identified 4 pirate escort boats flanking the hijacked vessel, a clear threat to the mission. In a flash, the first wave of fire was unleashed. Precision microbombs dropped from the drones with pinpoint accuracy. The ocean erupted in columns of water and fire as all 4 escort boats were obliterated in less than 12 seconds. The pirates had no chance to respond as their boats were vaporized in an instant. Simultaneously, 2 FA-18 Super Hornets came in from high altitude, launching strafing runs along the port side of the supply ship. Miniguns shredded the pirate positions on deck, cutting through sandbag barriers and tearing apart enemy gun placements. RPGs fired by the pirates exploded harmlessly in midair before they could reach their targets. But the real surprise came next. Out of the low horizon, like ghosts rising from the sea, 10 MH-60 Seahawk helicopters appeared. With deadly precision, they hovered just above the waterline. Ropes dropped, and within seconds, the U.S. Special Forces began their boarding operation. Navy SEALs and Marine Raiders rappelled onto the deck in perfect synchronicity. Moving like a well-oiled machine, the pirates never stood a chance. From bow to stern, the American forces moved methodically, clearing the ship inch by inch. One fire team breached the bridge and eliminated 2 pirates before they could even raise their rifles. Another team made their way to the engine room using flashbangs and suppressed fire to neutralize threats and clear the area. Meanwhile, medics quickly located the hostages, who were bound and bloodied, and began stabilizing the wounded. In less than 8 minutes, the entire ship was secured. Every pirate on board was either killed or detained. Not a single American hostage had been lost. The operation was swift, precise, and devastatingly effective. But the mission wasn't over yet. The pirates' coastal base, just 7 nautical miles inland, was still operational. It was a heavily fortified compound, complete with vehicle bays, fuel depots, and radar equipment. For years, it had been a black market hub, hidden along the Somali coastline and protected by a maze of terrain and corruption. But now, it was in the crosshairs of the U.S. military. Admiral Sloan didn't hesitate. With the supply ship secured and the pirates neutralized, he gave the order, switch targets, bring it down. Within minutes, 4 more FA-18 Super Hornets launched inland. These aircraft were loaded with GBU-32 JDAM bombs, precision-guided munitions capable of leveling enemy targets with surgical precision. They struck the pirate base with devastating force. The main headquarters was obliterated in a single pass, and secondary explosions lit up the coastline as fuel caches and munitions depots erupted into massive fireballs. The final strike came from above. A Reaper drone armed with Hellfire missiles entered the area and targeted the command tower. The missile hit with unrelenting force, and the blast was visible for miles. Within moments, the pirate base had been reduced to rubble.